what was your best landing spot for free agency so far?
Well, I mean, from a fantasy perspective, it's definitely like Odell going to the Browns. I mean, that's just going to be bananas for his numbers.
He wasn't a free agent though.
Oh, right. Yo, my bad.
I mean, throw it all in the same bucket, though. I'm with you.
No, that's fair. For me, I guess then for free agency, I like Mark Ingram going to Baltimore. I think that makes a lot of sense to help out their running game there. He's definitely been, itching to have a backfield of his own. Baltimore with, moving away from Flacco, going to Lamar Jackson, kind of having to establish the run in and of itself just by osmosis of having a running quarterback. I think he'll definitely help him a lot. I think he'll help him getting down in the red zone, and he's able to break off some runs there. He's definitely got a lot left in the tank. So I like the move of going with the consistent running back there for the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, you actually stole mine. That was going to be mine as well. I predicted Ingram to the Ravens in our free agency predictions article. I thought that was the best landing spot for him. He finally gets to take the reins and have a position, have a backfield. It's not to himself. Gus Edwards is there, and Kenneth Dixon is there, but I feel like Ingram is definitely the better of the three. That team's going to run a ton anyways because Lamar Jackson can't complete a pass to save his life. So I like Ingram there as well.
Thank you.
Ben, you have a favorite landing spot?
No, let Kev go first. I'm completely unprepared for this.
All right, Kev.
I mean, I could cherry pick and say, Lev Bell going to the Jets. But honestly, and I think mine under the radar signing here, I like it a little bit less now that Le'Veon Bell did sign with the Jets, but is Jamison Crowder. If you go back and look at Adam Gase as a head coach, even back when he was with Miami, his last 3 years in Miami, the slot wide receiver led them in targets every year. Obviously, when Jarvis Landry was there, he was clearly the best wide receiver they had. I think he had like 297 targets under Adam Gase. Now, even going back to last year, Danny Amendola led the team in targets last year as the slot wide receiver. So, a lot of people will say, at first, you kind of look back and say, well, that's what Quincy Enunwa does. So is Jamison Crowder going to be primarily in the slot? And I think the answer to that is yes. Last year, they moved Quincy Enunwa out of the slot, even last year when they really didn't have a defined option as a slot wide receiver. Now you bring in Jamison Crowder, who I think is very underrated in a lot of ways, and I think can be a very dynamic player as long as he can stay healthy and everything. So I really like the Jets moving forward. I think this gives Sam Darnold a security blanket, somebody that he can lean on that he didn't really have so much last year, where you use Robbie Anderson as the field stretcher, and then you have Chris Herndon as well. He does drop a little bit down with Le'Veon Bell signing, because I do think Le'Veon Bell is going to take some targets that Jamison Crowder would have gotten. However, I still really like the landing spot. I think he's somebody in PPR leagues that you could probably get later in a draft, but I think somebody who can provide weekly, at least, that 10 to 12 range, I think is pretty fair for him. Not somebody I think is going to score a lot of touchdowns, but somebody I think that can eat in volume. And so I like the Jets as a team to step forward, and a team that's probably going to start, maybe not this year, but maybe next year, that really starts to challenge the Patriots. And so I really like that landing spot, one that a lot of people probably aren't going to be as high on, but I really like Jamison Crowder to the Jets.
Yeah, by the way, Albert Wilson was having a monster season before he went down. He went down after like Game 7 or something like that, and then Amendola filled in for him.
No, 100%.
Yeah. All right, Ben, time's up, buddy.
Kev, that was a very deep dive. I love it. I'm literally going through all the free agent signings because I don't know. I mean, like Kev said, Le'Veon Bell is the obvious one. I mean, I think for me, it's just easy to at least touch on that from a standpoint of I don't think that this is going to be that much of an issue for him at all. Like, I think he's going to be right back to being a complete freak, because kind of what Kev's saying a little bit about the excitement with the Jets. And I really liked the move on the other side of the ball as well to get, now I'm blanking on the linebacker, but CJ Mosley. Yeah, I love that. And I thought, obviously we thought they were getting Anthony Barr. If they did, they're probably not going to have Le'Veon Bell. But I like where the Jets are going, and it goes back to the whole issue with with the Giants is, you should have Sam Darnold on your team, because Sam Darnold, although there's still question marks, this was one of the youngest starting quarterbacks like in NFL history last year. He was like 20 years old or something, right? And we see him come back from injury. It's kind of the Carson Wentz discussion of, did he have people to throw to or not? And is that a reason why his numbers were bad? Sam Darnold has a great last 4 games of the season last year, and he's throwing to Robbie Anderson. Quincy Newton was on IR. There's no Lev Bell. The running back situation is shaky at best. Elijah McGuire comes back from injury. He's playing. Like, he didn't have much, and he looked good. So now that we start to get him weapons, the Jets are not nearly as bad of a team as I think some may think, and I think Lev Bell can have success with that. Now, obviously, with that, you have to buy into Adam Gase, which is completely extremely insane, is what I want to say, because you can't even look at the guy without feeling like you're in a insane asylum. But I like the Jets, and it just goes back to the fact that not only is Le'Veon Bell a great runner, but I think people just forget because he took a year off. And, that's a whole nother discussion, because I still can't believe he sat out the whole year. And I think it was a little ridiculous, but to each their own. But once you get him back on the field, this dude is a freak receiver. This dude can catch 100 passes, and I wouldn't bat an eye. So that's why he'll be so good in fantasy. And I really like the move, because there's so many places where he could have gone where it's like, well, he took a year off, and, we know he's really good, but now, maybe there's a Mark Ingram type that he's battling with. I agree with you, right? I liked that signing, but there's not. I mean, he's going to come in and he's going to be the every down workhorse, and it's going to be beautiful from a fantasy perspective. I think, without going too in depth, I think he's a top 5 pick overall in fantasy this year without much hesitation.
I can tell you what the play call is going to be on 3rd and 15. A wide receiver screen. Just get ready for it. It'll be third and anything longer than 10. The play is going to be a wide receiver screen.
He's got the Adam Gase play calling.
With Adam Gase.
I guess while we're on the subject, Devin, what did you guys think of Devin Funchess? Because I've seen people all over the map on that one.
I don't mind the move at all. I think that in terms of everywhere he could have went, this would have to be in the top 2 or 3 spots he could have possibly made it. Because they have nobody else. They have T.Y. Hilton. They have Eric Ebron. And those are kind of the only 2 options they really had. I feel like that they have, T.Y. is more of a deep threat. He is somebody that can run a little bit more of a nuanced route tree, but still, he's basically, I think he's always been known for as his deep threat ability. They have not had a wide receiver who as physical as what Devin Funchess brings to the table. So with him going to Indianapolis and, with one of the best quarterbacks in the league, like, I think this is an opportunity for him to really, even if you look at him like a tight end. I mean, I just think that they needed this guy, this prototypical X wide receiver that is going to be really good in the red zone. If you go back and look at Devin Funchess' career inside the red zone, he's actually been very good. A very good red zone option for them. I think throughout his career, he has 51 total red zone targets and has converted 16 of them for touchdowns, which is about 31%. So, I have no problem with this move for him, and somebody that I think you could kind of look at like a solid wide receiver 3 who's going to see a ton of who's going to see, I think, anywhere from 80 to 100 targets in this offense. And this is very little downside for the Colts. It's a 1-year deal for $13 million.
Yeah.
If he can step it up, still a very young wide receiver. I think he's 24, turns 25 in a couple of months. So I really like this move, and one that I think is kind of underrated.
I love it. You're getting me fired up because, I mean, even in Cam Newton's quarterback 1 insane season, he still didn't have great passing numbers. Now, granted, he had nobody to throw to, and I still can't believe what he did that year. But he's never been this insane 4,000, 30 pass touchdown guy. So I've always liked Devin Funchess. And I think if you followed his career and kind of paid attention to the trajectory track, like he switched to wide receiver in college, if I'm not mistaken. He was a super young player early on. So now he's 25? He's not that old. Like, we love to hate on Devin Funchess, but I love this move because it's Andrew Luck. I think the better question, and it's a good point to pivot it over to Ryan, is because I'm going through all the signings, and there's not that many interesting signings from a free agency standpoint. I mean, Tevin Coleman goes to San Francisco, where he's on a depth chart with a lot of other guys. It's kind of intriguing, but really, to me, it's, you already talked about Jamison Crowder, and then it's Devin Funchess, who we just talked about, playing with Andrew Luck, and it's Dante Moncrief now playing with Ben Roethlisberger, essentially stepping in for Antonio Brown. So the question is, which one of those guys do we like better?
Funchess. I like
Okay.
Just when you're talking about the Colts and like I just don't know. Like James Conner is there for Pittsburgh, but like you're getting, we saw Bell without a year, but without Antonio Brown there to stretch the field, like I just don't know how that's really going to affect the Pittsburgh offense yet. And I know where the Colts are standing on offense right now with all the people they have. And like I'm saying, the red zone opportunities are going to be there. Ebron was second behind Devontae Adams, actually.
Exactly.
In red zone targets. So I think that Funchess is going to have a ton of ability to shine. There's not really that much else to compete with there. Whereas Moncrief, we're going to see him hand up ball off to James Conner a lot. James Conner in the red zone, plus then Juju's going to do what he does.
And there's that, I'm with you, because there's not that X factor that Funchess is fighting for on the Colts right now. We'll see how Deion Kane comes back. I think that's his name in year 2. Whereas you got that X factor of James Washington. He could step up and be that guy for Pittsburgh, and we already know who Juju is. We already know that I'm the biggest Vance McDonald fan on the planet. So if James Washington does what I think a lot of people think he can do, just go back and look at what he did in the preseason, and preseason does matter, folks. So when he's balling, like literally mossing people, this dude is good. So Moncrief's interesting, and that's why I wanted to bring him up. But Funchess probably steps right in, and because the Colts haven't really had anybody other than T.Y. Hilton at wide receiver for a couple years, I feel like. So let's get Funchess in there. He doesn't have much competition, and that's what you care about with wide receivers, because wide receivers are always going to be inconsistent. It just depends on how inconsistent overall, but they're always going to be. But as long as they are on the field and they're playing, they're always going to have a chance to go off. Just ask Philip Dorsett playing with Tom Brady. That was random. But if but that's the thing. We don't know what the playing time will be for Moncrief yet, because James Washington could be that guy that ends up being a 90% plus snap guy. They drafted him to be that guy.
I was a bit shocked and thrown aback by how many people on the fantasy Twitterverse were upset by the Funchess move. And one thing I'll never understand is why fantasy analysts get caught up in how much their salary is. What the hell do you care? How does that affect your fantasy game?
Right.
Like, is his $13 million salary going to affect your fantasy lineup this year? Because it's not going to affect mine. So.
But right. But even looking at the money, though, I think Ryan brought it up earlier. Like, that's really a great contract because it's a 1-year deal. Everybody and their mom is getting tons of money because the salary cap continues to go up, and that's something that I think a lot of people fail to like put into their analysis when they see these crazy numbers. Like, this is the NFL. Whether we like it or not, this is the best business in America. Like billions and billions of dollars. So they have the money to spend, and it's just the nature of the beast. Now, do we need to allocate more funds to, other individuals in this world that makes more of a difference? Yeah, but that's a whole nother conversation. This is the situation, and so they have the money to spend.